Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. God is always on time, always on time. We might not like the timing, but he's always on time. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac, or Yitzhak, which is laughter in Hebrew, as you see the name here. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him, staying faithful. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. I'd say, in a sense, that's fairly true. We do tend to kind of chuckle at the idea that a 90-year-old woman gave birth. We make jokes about it. You know, we have fun with it. And so the name becomes appropriate. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. That is, be able to nurse a son as well. And the child grew and was weaned, so being about 2 or 3 years old. And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. A bit of a birthday party kind of a deal. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. He loved his son. It wasn't like he thought of Ishmael as less than. He just knew that Isaac was the promised son. It didn't make him love Ishmael any less. So this really grieved Abraham. But it's as a result of his own lack of sort of strictness to the promises of God. And God said unto Abraham, so this time he's seeking the Lord about what his wife says, instead of just listening. Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, and all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. So Ishmael and the other Arab nations were blessed because they are descendants of Abraham. You can see the blessing in them. They multiply, the way they do business, other things. It's because they're connected to Abraham. Not only the Jewish people are blessed, the Arab people are also blessed in a different way, but they are blessed because they are children of Abraham. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child with her, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. I mean, this is basically like a death sentence. And yet, Abraham was grieved because of his son, but he was learning to trust in the Lord. The Lord had said, I will make a nation of your son Ishmael. Don't worry about that part. Don't worry about his mother. I will make a nation of them. Abraham has to trust that word from the Lord. He can't just go on his own understanding. He gives them enough to survive for a little bit, some bread and a bottle of water, but that's it. And he's saying if the Lord's going to do it, the Lord's going to do it. It's not going to be by the might or strength or wisdom of man. It's going to be the work of the Lord. The Lord will save them. The Lord will be their right hand guiding them. He's trusting, he's learning to trust in the Lord. This is crucial. So they went, and the water was spent in the bottle. And she cast the child under one of the shrubs. She took Ishmael over. Now he was 13, 14 at this point. Um, yeah, 14, because Ishmael was born when Abraham was 86, and now Abraham's 100. And so 14 years old, maybe now, oh, now that the child's weaned, um, Isaac was weaned, and so Isaac was 2 or 3 years old, so now uh, Ishmael is 16, 17. He's getting older, um, but she just takes him over and puts him under one of the trees. I don't know if he was losing his energy trying to help his mother, maybe, but they were out of water. They were out of food. Obviously, the food lasted less than the water did. Um, and here they have to decide what they're going to do. And this is when either they die in the wilderness or the Lord saves them. This is where we have to come in our faith. Are we willing to put our faith fully on the Lord and say, God, either you provide or it all goes away? Everything is over, one way or the other. I'm going to trust you that you are God, that you will prepare, that you will provide. That's where Abraham did with his son and his wife. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, so that is across from him, as it were a bow shot. So she went a good couple 100 meters away. Let me not see the death of my child, she said. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. So maybe she didn't want him to hear either, but she was a good distance away. But interestingly enough, God heard the voice of the lad. Now she was lifting up her voice and weeping, and God had heard her last time when she was pregnant. And this time, it's not her weeping, her voice crying out that the Lord is bending his ear towards. It's the voice of the lad, of the boy. So he's crying out for his mother, for their situation, interceding perhaps. But he's about to be the man of the house. He's 16, 17 years old. And so the Lord wants him to take charge, as we ought to as men. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven. Now, he hears the voice of the lad, but the angel calls to Hagar because he's technically under her authority still at that time. So the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? It's kind of an obvious question, but he likes for us to confess and say what is on our heart. Treat him as a true father. He says, Fear not, whatever's ailing thee. For God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. So I wonder if at this point, Ishmael's crying out to the Lord, interestingly enough. It's a good thing. Uh, and he doesn't realize, maybe, that God's already answering his cry. And the mother is over there receiving the answer to the request. This is very true often in our prayers. We're praying and God wants us to keep praying, even though we don't specifically see the answer yet. Because the answer may have already come, just came to someone else. So fear not, God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. So he's not a little boy, but he's saying to her, take him by the hand. He does need that encouragement still, that comes from a mother and should come from a father. But for those reasons, again, why we need to heed the voice of the Lord and how we make our marriage decisions, um, and not walk in foolishness, as really Abraham did in that case. But in the consequences, God will meet us. He will meet that woman, that single woman, in her need. But I'll tell you, there's nothing like a praying child that uh, moves the heart of God, I would say. It's hard to say exactly, is the heart of God truly moved? As a father, I think it is. Um, Now, there's that side of just him already knowing these things ahead of time, is providential understanding. But even still, it's God heard the voice of the lad, not the voice of the mother who was weeping. It was the boy crying out. I think this is worth noting. And verse 19, and God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. It may be that perhaps the Lord had sort of guided them to this location where they could find water, and she hadn't even noticed it as she had gone this bow shot away that it was there in her grief. And the Lord lifted up her head, encouraged her, and showed her that she was right next to a well of water. Maybe she hadn't even known it. As we see in the story with uh, Rachel and Jacob later on, that they often put stones over these wells so they can't be accessed. So maybe that was the deal. But the angel showed her this well of water that was right nearby. And she steps out of her grief and is saved. And having a well of water, probably that's what sustained them. Probably they stayed there in that place for a bit of time while they had water. They were able to hunt and find food and little by little grow out of the difficulty they were in. So God took care of them as well. God didn't abandon them. It was necessary that Abraham abandoned them in that sense. But it was because of his prior mistakes. It was because of his prior decisions. So in those difficulties that we find ourselves in, we've made mistakes prior to knowing the Lord. We've got to trust that God will deal with it and not try to take everything into our own hands. Some of you may be in those situations. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. It's interesting to me that Ishmael is in this part of the desert here near Beersheba, because this is also where Esau is going to end up. You remember, and we'll find out as we read along, that Esau will be out in the wilderness and he'll be a hunter. It says here that Ishmael became an archer. And so he became a hunter. He learned well to hunt because he was there in the desert with just water at this point after they found the well. And so, very likely, Esau learned much of his hunting from Ishmael, which is interesting because later on, Esau marries the daughters of Ishmael and very well may have a lot to do with why Esau became a very flesh-centered person, as Ishmael was the son of the flesh, the son of the reactions and responses in the flesh. Uh, Ishmael was born of those kind of decisions. And now we've got Esau, who's getting to know and learning from his uncle, Ishmael, and later on marrying into the family, and eventually they actually kind of become synonymous with each other when later on at the end of the book there's a reference to the Ishmaelites that's also a reference to the Edomites. We'll see in the story of Joseph. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. That's where she was from, so she knew how things worked there. They obviously grew and strengthened themselves there. And it came to pass at that time that Avimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spoke unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou dost, in all you're doing. We recognize God is with you. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son. They're afraid of him now. Abraham is very much a king in the area. Nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Avimelech because of a well of water which Avimelech's servants had violently taken away. Now, this would become a problem again after Abraham dies in Isaac's lifetime. This is going to be again a problem with the son of Avimelech, who is still called Avimelech in that time. And Avimelech said, I wot not, I don't know what you're talking about. I wot not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Avimelech, and both of them made a covenant. So this is still in that southern area where they had moved from Hebron down here into the southern wilderness area. And so this is this covenant that's going to be made. And took the sheep and oxen, gave them to Avimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Avimelech said unto Abraham, what mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? So he doesn't understand this custom of covenant making the way that God had made a covenant with Abraham. He doesn't understand it, and he wants to understand. And he said, Abraham says, for 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. So he's sort of buying the security of it, buying the insurance in a sense, just so everyone knows. Wherefore he called that place Be'er Sheva, or Be'er Sheva, because there they had swear, both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Avimelech rose up, and Phicol, the captain of his host, so they had an army, and he had a commander of an army, and very likely there was about to be military conflict over the water situation in the area. And so that's why the captain of his army was there. Ber is well in it, like a well of water in Hebrew, and then Sheva is 7. So very literally, this well, this area now is referred to as the well of 7 because he secured it with the 7 lambs that he gave to Avimelech. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Avimelech rose up and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. He worshiped the Lord there in a very specific way. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. So that was considered Philistine territory down there in Beersheba at that time. But later on, the Philistines would be moved all the way over to the sea where Gath and Ashdod and Ashkelon and Ekron and all those places are to this day.